we understand. What a wonderful thought. Understand. Understand what? What is it we need to understand? Actually, this whole series of messages that we're in the process of presenting is all about what it's important for each one of us to understand for our own lives and for the universe, for the world, for our country. Understanding. What is it? Anybody got an idea what it is that we need to understand? But nothing if we don't understand it? What have we been talking about over and over and over and over again?
Love.
Well, that's a good guess.
That we're all one.
But we're all one. That's getting closer. Yep.
Reverence.
Huh?
Reverence.
Reverence. Faith.
We're all divine.
We're all divine. In what way are we all divine? Where are we all divine? How are we all divine?
In the spiritual realm. We're expressions.
In the spiritual realm. Thank you. Have you heard about the spiritual realm before? Maybe. What's the other realm? What physical realm? The earthly realm. What's the difference between the earthly realm and the absolute or spiritual realm?
The body.
The body, yeah, that's good. Our body, everybody's body, molecules.
I would say that, I forget the word, but the physical realm, I think that's an expression of our ego.
I would agree with you.
It's holy. The physical realm is also holy.
But it's also holy, that's right. And that's the important thing. That's why I keep avoiding the word ego, is that it's kind of gotten a bad rap. You know, I mean, we say ego and there's negative baggage that people include when they say that. Our ego is really crucial for us as embodied beings.
Well, I meant that our ego is what names things. It's not,
Yes.
not a bad or a good.
Right, I agree. Yeah, I'm just saying that. That's why I'm not just saying ego,
Right, exactly.
because different people mean different things, and we're trying to find a word or words that we can agree on. It's not bad. It's not good. It is good, and it's bad. Think about it. Everything. It has poles, opposite experiences involved. And we name our experience as good or bad. It's not the thing that's good or bad. Is that a wild idea or what? It's how we experience life. There are events happening all the time, all over the place, every place. Events, boom, 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 like popcorn. And wherever we are, there are events happening there too. All the time, like popcorn. We can't choose that. That's life. That's raw material for living. What do you do with raw material?
Make a story out of it.
You do something with it, right? We change it. I'm not sure that's exactly the right word.
Create.
We use it we work with it,
We learn from it.
we learn from it, we make it do something. We build a story around it, we do stuff with it. That's what we do with raw material. As human beings, we do stuff. And the stuff we do and how that feels to us, that becomes our experience with those raw events. What do we remember? Do we remember the raw event?
Remember how it felt?
We remember how it felt. We remember our experience, assuming it felt like anything. If we didn't feel like anything, you'll never think of it again. We remember the experiences in which we had the greatest feelings. So all of the 12 powers that we're talking about, what Reverend Victoria talked about last week, faith, that knowing inside. We had a very interesting conversation in the Point of Power class, in which it turned out everybody who's been around for a certain amount of years has had at least one experience where they got to a point of desperation and they did something totally out of character that, they just felt they had to do, or it was that or dying. And that led to things like picking up and moving someplace else, which anybody would think might be crazy, but it turned out to be a good thing to do. It turned out to free the person up. We all had those experiences. That knowing that if we do that, somehow it's right, that we got to do it. That's faith. Faith is knowing. So that's a crucial power. If we don't have faith in something, we have no hope. And that's a really bad place to be. So that's one of our powers, that inner knowing. It gives us power, and most people discover it in desperation. The important thing to realize is you don't have to be desperate to know it, to know what you know. But you have to get in the habit of listening to yourself, to listening to what you know inside. And somebody said on Thursday night too, well, I don't know how to get there. The only way to get there that I know of, that I've experienced, sometimes it is desperation, but most of the time it comes from knowing how to pivot our awareness from the physical realm, from the events, and go within. What we do every Sunday morning is that practice. And there's no, you can't tell me you can't meditate, because all it requires is simply being. When you do it a lot, you learn how to do it, so it comes a lot quicker and a lot more naturally. And that's one of the uses of these Sunday experiences of meditation, of going within, is you're practicing. It's all about practice. So, in the absolute realm, we have magic powers. That's the important thing about the absolute. It's not the physical realm. It's the absolute. It's different. It's a place where we have magic. And when we become more and more aware of, okay, I can shift my awareness. Suffering stops at the edge of the absolute realm. So if you are suffering, what does that tell you? You're in the wrong realm. It's a good way to put it. Like, oops, maybe I don't want to be. Maybe I don't want to empower my awareness in this realm. Maybe it's time to go into silence for a minute. It doesn't take a long time. You don't have to do it for hours. You can only think of one thing at a time. Did you know that? Try it someday. Our brain only holds one thought at a single time. So when we change the energy, when we say, okay, breathe, and pay attention to the breath. That's a thought. And do it for a couple of minutes, 3 minutes. Your thoughts have changed. And then all your hormones and neurotransmitters shift. Because the body and the mind are one thing. That's another way in which we're one. Our body, our mind, our spirit, we're one. They are not separate. And I know that if physically I'm feeling some ache or pain, if I go within and just say, I am whole, and be in that awareness, it's pretty amazing what happens to what was going to make me feel crappy all day. It's not there anymore. I don't know where it goes. I really don't care where it goes. But I'm not thinking about it anymore, and therefore I'm not aware of it. Going within is the key to our magic. Being, just being, and breathing. So, the next power after faith, after that knowing, that we're going to consider is strength. Now, most of my life I've been aware of myself in the physical, and I've never thought of myself as particularly strong. I mean, you know, I had polio when I was a kid. I can't open a jar, I can't open a bottle. Forget it about, it's just not going to happen. So I have not thought of myself physically as strong. And yet, in the absolute realm, that doesn't mean it has no significance. It's not the same thing that we think about as physical strength is irrelevant in the absolute realm, because we're not talking about physical strength in the absolute realm. We're talking about spirit's strength, not my little bitty body strength. We're talking about infinite, absolute strength. How much strength do you think that is? Are you strong when you are one in awareness with that powerful, infinite strength?
Yes.
Thank you. That's the answer. Yes. You're more powerful than you could ever imagine. I became very aware of this past week. I was in the hair salon to get my hair cut, and she wanted to wash it first, as usually happens. And I didn't realize that they had these newfangled electric recliners at the sink. So I sat down and I leaned back and I stuck my legs straight out. Right? That's what I always did, because she would then put something under my legs. So I did that. And then I became aware of this amazing electronic thing that was leaning me back, starting at the shoulders, and pieces were coming up and supporting all my back muscles. It felt so good. It was all the right places. And then it came to where it started to lift my legs. And I realized, oh, I didn't need to stick my legs out and hold them up like that. Because the chair was going to do it electrically. I'd been being strong, being prepared, being ready. I laughed. I felt really silly. But then I thought about it, and I thought, you know what? That's exactly what happens when I'm anticipating that something's going to be challenging. Do I think, oh, I don't need to do this all by myself? I can relax into infinite strength and know, just claim it, just know it, that I'm going to be able to breeze through as long as I am letting that happen. I thought, okay. So anytime I find myself, physically prepared for something hard, I want that to be an image that reminds me, oh, wait a minute. You don't have to do it that way. Go within, meditate, relax, and it will be done. And it will be a whole lot easier. This actually happened not too long ago. A lot of you were here for my Unity ordination. Which was a beautiful ceremony, a great party. Let me tell you what went on before. I decided with Reverend Victoria that, yes, we would both apply for Unity ordination because, after all, this is a Unity center. And after 5 years, it seemed like it was probably time to get acknowledged by Unity. And I put in my application in July, double-checked, they received it. And while I was waiting to hear from Unity about what came next, I told a couple of other interfaith colleagues that I had done that, and they said, with no exception, oh yeah, I tried that. They jerked me around so bad, I just stopped and never finished. I thought, well, that's strange. It hasn't happened to me. And then as time went on, I looked back and I thought again. I said, oh, yeah, it did. But I wasn't in the mindset to process it that way. I just miraculously wasn't there. I was not thinking as a victim. Yes, the world happens to me and knocks me over. And so I hadn't even really realized. I hadn't phrased it that way. I hadn't thought about it that way. So what did happen? I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited. And I waited 6 months before I heard anything other than, yes, we got your application, wait for us to contact you. So I applied in July. Late January, I get this call from the chairman of the ordination committee who says, hi, we're looking forward to interviewing you, but first, you have to know there are some restrictions. And he sent me an email. And the email was a brand new policy that had just gone into effect a week before that said anyone who was in the process of applying for ordination in the old system has to finish all 12 required classes by March 30th, 2017, or else they will have to take 24 classes. Oh my God. You can put the word how I felt. I won't say it from here. For about a day. And then I actually, don't ask me why, remembered the divine realm and the universe. And that, I'm used to working with the universe. The universe doesn't change its mind once you've agreed to something. I thought, okay, I guess I better double check. Is this possible? I didn't think it was. I didn't think it was physically possible. Can this even be done? First thing I thought was, well, I can do, it used to be that all the classes were online and you could take them whenever you wanted, and they were boring. Ugh. It was so hard to do one. But I could do one a week, and I had 12 weeks, almost. And I thought, okay, I could probably do that, and I looked online, and that changed too. There were no more independent study online classes. You had to take classes with a teacher and other students all at the same time. Could be done online or in person, but there was a 6-week period where you were taking classes every week for that class. So I looked at all the list of required classes, and I looked at what was available online at different times. There were 5 classes. And then, I don't know who, I don't know why, somebody said, oh, have you investigated the intensive week in Orlando? Well, in February, there was indeed an intensive week. I could go in person and take 4 more classes that week. So then I was up to, what, 9. Well, okay. And then I looked at the courses that Reverend Pat Venema was offering, and by golly, 2 more of the ones that I needed were in her program, and they were not at the same time as any of the others. 11. And I thought, okay, well, this. I mean, it was basically, okay, I am not taking 24 classes. No way, no how. If I can't find the 12, I'm off the hook. And at that moment, I got a phone call from our regional representative, who's the person responsible for the application and for shepherding people through, and she said, have you been able to find all the classes you need? And I said, no, there's still one. She said, I'll tutor you. So, okay, universe, it is possible to do this. I will say yes. I don't know how I'm going to do it. Sheesh. You know, it was really going to take, and it did, 8 to 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for 9 weeks. Well, that's when strength came in. You know, I thought, okay, I can do it physically. Humanly, not a chance. I'm, you know, what if? And oh my gosh, there were some big what ifs that happened, like my wife almost died in an accident during this time. And, you know, I knew that, okay, if I embarked on this, I was going to finish it. And I was going to rely on Spirit. And it was going to happen no matter what. And I had to do 3 things. I had to be brave. Even though it seemed overwhelming, I had to say, okay, I can do it. I had to have stability. In other words, I couldn't easily be knocked out of that course that I had embarked on, or it was all for naught. I would have to take 24 classes after suffering through 12 classes in 9 weeks. So I had to be stable. And Charles Fillmore writes about stability as part of strength, and he says, when you add together the physical and the mental and emotional and spiritual, it gives you a broad base so you can't be knocked over. Duh, that makes sense. And the third thing was I needed to be tenacious. I needed to just keep my eye on the prize and know I was going to get there, and no matter what, I was going to get there. So I ended up taking classes online with people from the ICU and from a hospital room and from a rehab hospital, and when I got to the end, it was so amazing. I felt so uplifted, energized, happy, joyful. And committee called the day after the deadline. And the guy said, so, what about those 12 classes? I said, well, I did them. It was this long silence on the other end of the line. Finally, somebody said, oh, that's wonderful. We thought you were going to need to ask for accommodations. They didn't give me a hard time after that. I was like, okay, it was done. But I wouldn't have been able to do it without relying on magic strength, my magic powers in oneness, in awareness with the universe. And it was very interesting. It's kind of like sometimes, I don't know, when I really need to get someplace, none of the lights are against me, and I know I'm in a zone. I just go, and there's like 40 lights, and they're all green. And I know energetically I'm in this cocoon, and they're all going to be green. It felt like that. Like, you know, it's time to study, time for class, no problem. It was really an amazing experience. That has been true every time that I have remembered, oh, I don't want to be in this painful awareness in the relative realm. It's time to shift and go into the absolute awareness. Lao Tzu, the writer of the Tao Te Ching, encapsulates all this, as he does so beautifully, in like 8 words. Those who flow as life flows know they need no other force. End quote. Let's think of it again. Those who flow as life flows. That's the absolute realm, life. No, they need no other force. So in the program today, you have a handout on strength. And it's there for you to take home so you can think about this and remember it and play with it and practice with it during the week. Make it yours. Make it your awareness. Charles Fillmore, in his book Revealing Word, defined the power of spiritual strength as a spiritual quality that enables one to remain poised and centered in God amidst difficulties and dangers. So whenever you feel like you're not poised and centered, that's a red flag. It's time to do a little breathing and meditation and know that you are turning your awareness into the absolute realm where you are experiencing being the strength of spirit. So there's an affirmation on that little sheet that was in your program. It starts, I claim strength now. Let's say that together. I claim strength now, regardless of circumstances. I stay the course. Let's do it once again. I claim strength now, regardless of circumstances. I stay the course. That is what will happen easily if and when you remember to go within and do it. So let's envision everyone here gaining in spiritual strength by practicing every day on our hero's journey. And so it is.